Manchester United believe they can close the deal for Matheus Cunha soon. The Saudi Pro League are showing concrete interest in Andre Onana, or are they? Could Mateta be the alternative striker should we miss out on Liam Delap, who is believed to be 50-50 to join, and a mega offer for a Serie A defender? All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Welcome to the channel, my name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So firstly, give us your thoughts and feelings on the match yesterday and the performance. Be interesting to hear what you've got to say regarding the match. I mean, it was, the minimum we deserved, I think, was a draw. It's again one of those games where I felt we should have won, but without playing particularly well, which is the story of the season, mistakes at the back, can't score goals. I've been saying that for weeks. It is literally Man United at the moment. Can't constant mistakes at the back, can't score goals, and that's why we are where we are. And it's an issue that needs to be addressed in the summer, because I don't think it's a system problem. I don't think it's a tactical issue or anything like that. It was happening under Erik ten Hag as well, where we would create chances and not be able to score. This is a personnel issue. I don't think we've got the quality of players on the pitch that are, capable of scoring the level of goals that we need. And the players that are on the pitch, and I'm talking specifically about the forward line, some of them should just be bench and backup players for me at the moment. Like, we shouldn't be relying on Rasmus Højlund as our only goal scorer. We shouldn't be relying on Garnacho. They're too inexperienced, and not consistent enough to be the number one kind of attacking options. Bench players at best for me at the moment, those two. And obviously when we go through the transfer news, you'll kind of, it makes sense to me that we are looking at those particular areas as well, because, we just simply cannot score goals. I think we created, it was like 24 or 25 chances yesterday. It was, and to score one scrappy goal at the last minute as well is just not good enough. Bournemouth had one shot on target as well, which was their goal. But that's the story of the season. That is literally the story of the season as well. I did feel the players were playing a little bit within themselves as well, maybe worried about getting injured for the match on Thursday, which is, understandable, I suppose, considering the kind of magnitude of that game that's coming up. But it is what it is. I just can't wait to get this Premier League season over and done with, especially after watching the other lot win 20 titles as well and match our kind of record. It was a very, 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 shit day yesterday, wasn't it? But at least we didn't lose. We got a point was the minimum we deserved, I felt, from that game as well. But we're the architects of our own downfall. Said mistakes at the back and inept forwards. My missus even said to me, it was around the 85th minute, and she doesn't like football and doesn't understand football, right? But even she looked at me and said, why don't United score goals anymore? And I was like, when you get put on the spot, and the only response I could think of at the time and I just literally went, well, because we've got shit players. And that's the only thing I could think of at that particular moment as to why, because, we are inept up front. It's absolutely woeful, but it's the story of the season. It's not going to change for the rest of the Premier League seasons, but I just hope that in Europe, it's the one kind of competition where we actually are scoring goals. I mean, we're still making mistakes and conceding goals, which is a bit concerning, but unbeaten, we've just got to go all out for that for the rest of the season. So hopefully we've got, big couple of weeks coming up with the Europa League games, so hopefully we can still salvage something from this season. But if not, but Premier League wise, yeah, the worst I've ever witnessed. Absolutely garbage. But give us your thoughts on the match and the result and the performance in the comments. I thought Amorim summed it up quite well, actually, with his post-match press conference. Said, if you look at our matches, it's always a bit our fault if the opponent takes the lead, and then it's difficult to turn the situation around. We want to do better. So Amorim himself kind of acknowledges, look, we're architects of our own downfall sometimes because of the mistakes we make at the back or the decision-making, at the back. If we concede, because we don't have we've got the second worst attack in the Premier League behind only Southampton. That's statistically as well. So we concede an early goal through a mistake, or a goal through a mistake, then you're always up against it because our attack is absolutely inept. But yeah, give us your thoughts. in the below. So let's below in the comments. But let's go through the transfer news. So obviously, one way we can improve our attack, I think, is the only way is recruitment. I don't see, I think like the forwards that we've got might have, something in them and potential, but I don't think they should be starting every week. I don't think Garnacho should be starting week in and week out. I don't think Højlund should be starting week in and week out if he deserves to stay at all after his performances this season, although fair play did get a goal yesterday. But I thought his general play was terrible again, personally. But so we need players in the front line. One of the players we're heavily linked with and looks like it's going to be done fairly soon, by all accounts, is Matheus Cunha. So the latest there is that Ben Jacobs said that Manchester United are set to hold talks with Matheus Cunha over the financial terms next week. A key meeting has now been scheduled for next week, where Man United and Cunha will discuss financial terms for the first time. So when he says next week, actually this week, because this came out, I believe it was late Saturday. So this week, according to Ben Jacobs has been spot on with the Matheus Cunha news, who's actually one of the first kind of journalists, was really pushing hard on the kind of reports as well, if you remember back to previous videos. So saying key meeting scheduled for this week, and Matheus Cunha will discuss financial terms for the first time as well. So we're getting to the stage where we're looking at kind of like the cost and the wage structure and stuff like that as well. Then this deal is getting a lot closer as well, because we know he's got a release clause to kind of pay, so that shouldn't be an issue for United. It's just how they structure that deal will be what needs to be negotiated with Wolves. But Matteo Moretto, very decent source as well, has been working with Romano, broke loads of news before Romano and Ornstein in the January window as well, saying that Manchester United have already finalised the verbal agreement with Matheus Cunha. United intend to pay a 62.5 million release clause in the coming weeks. And then Fabrizio Romano has said that we are entering into important days for Manchester United's pursuit of Matheus Cunha. United really believe they can close this deal very soon. And Romano was talking about, basically everything's not going to be an issue in terms of the contract. The player wants to come. Obviously, we want to buy him. Wolves are happy to accept the release clause in installments as well, as long as they get the kind of full release clause as well. So all roads are pointing towards this going through. He got a goal and 2 assists at the weekend as well. And then you're watching, Højlund running the ball out of play and Garnacho miscontrolling it and just letting it go out of play and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And this lad's going across. And it was against Leicester. I mean, Garnacho and Højlund actually scored against Leicester as well. So what does that say against those? But the attack is so important. Like, we need players in. And I just kept thinking yesterday, God, if we had somebody, that could, one, actually shoot and score from distance, because that was frustrating. But then also, that little bit of kind of creativity in and around the penalty area as well. It's I think it's going to be a big signing for us personally, but I know some of you have doubts around it as well, but only time will tell with this one. But I like the fact that he wants to come as well, considering the position that we're in. I think that says a lot about what, and I like that. I like players that want to play for United, not just want to come here for the paycheck and stuff like we've had in the past. But yeah, all signs are pointing towards this being done. It's just a case of when, not if, I believe, at the moment. But give us your thoughts and feelings on Matheus Cunha in the comments below. Now, another player we're linked with to improve our forward line is Liam Delap. So Liam Delap to Manchester United is 50-50. The situation is still completely open whether this transfer will work whether this transfer will work out. So that came from Christopher Michael, very good source, German kind of news or journalist, one that I pay attention to. I think he's a good kind of journalist as well, suggesting 50-50 for Liam Delap. Obviously, the other 50% will be Chelsea. The recent reports were that Chelsea believe that they're ahead in the race. He's not going to make a decision, though, until after the under-21 tournament, I believe. So this could be one potentially that's going to drag on, but we know by now that he is seen as our number one striker option. Yeah, so we'll just need to wait and see, obviously. But if we don't get Liam Delap, there is a concern, because if we're putting it, like, it's a weird one, because if we're putting all our eggs in the Delap basket, I think it's either one of two things. Either we're being a bit naive, which can't be ruled out, we must have some kind of signal that he wants to come, surely. But, it does concern me that Chelsea are in for him, because Chelsea, we always lose out the transfers to Chelsea when we're in a direct two-horse race with them. But if we don't, one of the alternatives could be Mateta. So Manchester United remain interested in signing Crystal Palace striker Jean-Philippe Mateta if they are unable to win the race for Ipswich Town forward Liam Delap, according to Give Me Sport sources. Manchester United are actively exploring attacking reinforcements ahead of the summer transfer window, with Crystal Palace striker Mateta emerging as a potential option. Palace are currently trying to negotiate a new deal for the French striker, but if they're unable to agree terms, and Mateta, who has been described as one of the best strikers in the Premier League, is keen to join the Manchester club, then the Eagles will have to become open-minded about the potential sale. Now, that came from Dean Jones via Give Me Sport, who's normally a decent source as well when it comes to that, suggesting that if we don't go for Delap, then potentially we may go for Mateta. They are actually very similar players in terms of their goal involvements and all sorts this season. But let's have a look at Mateta first. So 41 appearances, 17 goals, 4 assists. This season, Delap has made 36 appearances, 12 goals and 2 assists. Yeah, 12 goals and 2 assists in all competitions. So very similar in terms of, games and goals. Obviously, Mateta scored a few more goals, a couple more assists as well. And then in terms of stats, not particularly outstanding in anything, but, is a more experienced striker, so he's 27 years old. He's going to be 28, I believe, in June. Delap's 22. I thought I'd do a little bit of a comparison as well regarding the two players, and they are very similar in terms of what they so their expected goals pretty much the same, their non-penalty goals pretty much the same. A few more passes into the box, a few more expected assists. Oddly, Delap better aerially than Mateta. Passes received, both very low in terms of their passes received, but they're scoring goals with little of the ball, which I like as well, because obviously we know we have a service issue to our strikers as well. But if you've got strikers that can actually do more with the ball when they get it, that would be advantageous for us as well. But not oddly, but Liam Delap, a lot more attacking actions with less of the ball as well. So, but very similar in terms of their kind of profiling. And I like that from United, because how many times have we jump from player to player and they're total opposites, like they don't have the same attributes. Like we went from Frankie de Jong, wanting him as a transfer target, to Casemiro, and they're completely different profile of players. Whereas if you can kind of look on the kind of chart there, very similar in terms of their kind of qualities and stuff, which says that they are looking at specific players that have specific skill sets, which means that they're recruiting for the team rather than just going out and saying, well, which strike is available and how do we fit him in with the team, and then changing what we're kind of potentially doing, and then that player not working because they don't suit the style of play we want to play, which is the mistakes that we made in the past. So that's a little bit of a positive for me, I think. And they're both Premier League proven as well. Give us your preference in the comments, because I'm sure you'll have your own kind of thoughts and preferences out of Mateta and Delap. Who you're going for? Get involved in the comments and give us who you're thinking down below. I know another player that we've been linked with via Caught Offside, saying that Manchester United are interested in signing Inter Milan defender Yann Bisseck at the end of the season, and they are preparing a mega offer for him. Man United would be prepared to offer 60 million euros to sign the German defender. The player has been linked to Tottenham as well. Now, this is a player, not one that I've watched a ton of, I'm going to be completely truthful, so I need your thoughts and your help and your kind of opinion on this in the comments below. 24, so a good age. Looks very, very good in terms of his kind of stats and data. I need to do the eye test on him though as well. He looks an absolute unit from the highlights and stuff that I've watched, but highlights don't necessarily paint a full picture of what a player is like. Apparently he's not quite getting into the team, apparently, from the report as well. But when I looked at his appearances, he still made quite a few appearances this season as well. But if you want somebody that's in the top, like, echelons of most of the kind of percentiles for a centre-half, good age as well, right-footed, potentially play obviously on the right side or maybe even in the centre of the back three as well. Looks an absolute beast. of a player, but I've not done the eye test on him as well. It came from Inter Live. I don't necessarily believe that they're a decent source as well. Caught Offside have some hitty-missy journalists as well. This came from one of their kind of lesser, from one of their missy journalists, I would say. So I'd initially take that story with a pinch of salt. However, would be an interesting profile to bring in. Whether we've got 60 million euros to go and spend on a defender, I highly doubt when we're looking at the attack, but then that would depend on player sales. Maybe if you go into the Champions League, you could extend your budget as well. So there's ways we can kind of, do these sort of deals. I don't think we would go near that price though, personally. But I would say with the kind of sourcing, take it with a pinch of salt for now. But really interesting profile of player. But I'd really love your opinion on him if you know much about him. Good shout, bad shout. Let me know in the comments below. Now, this is an interesting story regarding Andre Onana. So the Saudi Pro League side, Neom, are showing concrete interest in Andre Onana, and talks between them and his management have taken place. Onana is open to leaving this summer. Now, that came from Santi. Now, Santi's a decent source as well, has been quite reliable recently. So that's one to maybe potentially pay attention to in terms of, because, like I said, he's a decent source as well. There was also a Saudi journalist saying that the similar thing, that Saudi Arabia side Neom SC are in advanced negotiations with Andre Onana's representatives and will submit a first official offer to Manchester United imminently. Which is one, again, I don't know the credibility of that particular source as well, but Santi's a decent source of information as well, who also said that Andre Onana is open to leaving United this summer. However, Ben Jacobs has kind of come out dismissing that story as well, saying Neom SC are not exploring a deal for Andre Onana and have no interest in signing him as well. So that one becomes a bit of a case of, who do you believe? Because Santi's a decent source. Ben Jacobs is decent as well. Both can be hit and miss, though, as well. So they're not, Ornsteins or Romanos or Laurie Whitwells or any ones like that are, the three best journalists around for United news, in my opinion, those three. So that becomes a case of who do you believe? And I think with Onana, because of the form, and I think that, there's a majority of people out there that would want to replace the goalkeeper as well. We need to be careful about kind of getting too overhyped with, the Santi story, because Ben Jacobs has said, no, that's not true. So we need to kind of keep an eye on it. We'll see how it kind of plays out. We know there's question marks around the goalkeeper situation. We know there's question marks specifically around Onana and his form as well. And maybe they are looking for a replacement. And we're definitely looking for a goalkeeper because Tom Eaton's going. And there's reports that Bayinda might want to go as well. So we're definitely looking at a goalkeeper. It's just whether we're going to be looking for a younger profile, keeping Onana, or if Onana goes as well, then we do need a number one choice. But yeah, we'll just need to wait and see what happens with that one, because I said one person saying interest, the other one saying no interest. Where do we go with that? We'll have to just wait and see how that kind of develops. Now, sources believe that Rashford will not play for Manchester United again under the ongoing situation with Ruben Amorim. Rashford is aiming to transfer to a club participating in the UEFA Champions League. That came from Rob Dawson, kind of confirming the stories that we've been bringing recently around Rashford. Not necessarily coming back to United again. We'll just need to wait and see what happens with Rashford in the summer. And then Blackburn Rovers are interested in signing Dan Gore this summer, and Man United are ready to sell him for just under £1 million. Gore feels his time at Manchester United is over, and he's open to joining a championship club instead of staying with the under 21s. And there's, it's a shame, Dan Gore, because I think he's a good player, very talented player as well. But every time he's gone out on loan to like championship clubs to kind of develop and push forward, he just seems to always end up getting injured, and that's massively stumping his kind of growth, I think, and his development as well. And with his age, the fact that he's not getting, being talked about coming into the first team and stuff, I think it's the right career move for him. It's the right thing for United as well to kind of move these players on, because we hoard them for too long a lot of the times, and then their value decreases, and then you end up doing this where you end up having to sell him. Whereas a couple of years ago, after he'd made like his first team appearances and stuff, Dan Gore might have been worth a few quid more than what we're necessarily going to sell him, and that's something we need to do better. The pathway for the youngsters needs to be a lot more we need to be a bit more brutal with it if we've got players that we don't think are ready, and selling them, and do what we've done with you know, Willy Camboala and staff, buyback clauses, sell-on clauses, all of that kind of stuff as well. And then that way it's not stumping their development. So I do feel a little bit for Dan Gore because he is a good player, or looked a really potential player coming through the kind of youth, but he's just had really bad injury problems, hasn't he, since he went out on his loans. Always ends up coming back and then playing games for the 21s again to gain his fitness and stuff. So it is a bit of a shame the way his kind of career's gone. But if he leaves, wish him all the best. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because as you're all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news, smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.